It's exactly 6 p.m. now, Cairo local time. It's a very good evening to our viewers and welcome to Channel 2's English News Bulletin. My name is Angie Meher and we begin straight away with the headlines. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli inaugurates the Leone factory for automotive electrical cables. Foreign Minister Abdelati meets European Council President Charles Michel. The Arab League chief condemns the Israeli occupation forces storming of the UNRWA headquarters. Welcome back. Now the details in full. The Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, witnessed on Tuesday the inauguration of the Leone factory for automotive electrical cables in Badr City, one of the largest factories in the world for the German company. During the inauguration ceremony, Madbouli hailed the company's success in Egypt and emphasized the government's support to foreign investments. We have more details in this report.
Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli inaugurated on Tuesday the Leone Automotive Wiring Harness Manufacturing Plant, located in Badr City, Arobeki Access, Cairo Governorate, on an area of 14,000 square meters. He was accompanied by Lieutenant General Kamil Wazir, Deputy Prime Minister for Industrial Development and Minister of Industry and Transport. The Prime Minister emphasized that the automotive industry has become a top priority for the Egyptian state. Therefore, the government is making significant efforts to localize this vital industry as part of a broader plan to localize industry in general and attract foreign direct investment in this important sector. This is being achieved by facilitating the establishment and growth of high value-added industrial projects, particularly in the automotive components industry, which is considered one of the most promising sectors in the Egyptian economy. This also aligns with the National Automotive Industry Development Program, which aims to increase local content and attract investment to build a strong industrial base that contributes to deepening the automotive industry as a fundamental pillar of sustainable manufacturing and transportation. In this context, Prime Minister Madbouli explained that Egypt has become a global hub for the wiring harness industry, hosting major companies specializing in this field that produce a component for all types of vehicles, whether traditional or electric. This underscores the confidence of international companies in the strength of the Egyptian economy and the efficiency of the Egyptian workforce. This confidence has clearly increased recently with the expansion of numerous industrial projects which fall within the framework of the state's vision for industrial development.
Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli received the Director General of the Food and Agriculture Organization at the government's headquarters in the new capital. The meeting was held to grant the Agricola Medal, the highest award of the FAO, to President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, with the UN Organization Director General expressing high appreciation to President el-Sisi's efforts in supporting food security and combating hunger, as well as providing humanitarian support to neighboring countries facing severe crises. Prime Minister, meanwhile, conveyed Egypt's appreciation to the FAO efforts and also conveyed President el-Sisi's gratitude for the award, emphasizing Egypt's commitment to strengthening cooperation with the UN organization. Egyptians abroad continue casting their ballots at embassies and consulates in the second and final day of the rerun of the first phase of the House of Representatives elections. 30 constituencies and 10 governorates are included in the rerun of the first phase of the elections, vying for 58 seats. Heads of diplomatic missions abroad are supervising the voting process under the umbrella of the National Election Authority. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Badr Abdelati, said that Egypt hopes to attract more European investments and enhance the private sector partnerships between the two sides. His remarks came during a meeting with the European Council President Charles Michel, where they discussed the means of boosting the Egyptian-European relations and the latest developments in the region. During the meeting, the two officials reviewed a number of regional issues, including the situation in the Gaza Strip, where the foreign minister said Egypt is exerting the utmost efforts to maintain the ceasefire in Gaza, according to the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement. Abdelati also stressed the importance of implementing the UN Security Council Resolution number 2803, tackling the situation in Gaza. Egypt continues delivering aid to the Gaza Strip on Tuesday through a secondary gate of the Rafah land port within the framework of efforts to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinians in the Strip. The Egyptian Red Crescent announced that the 90th aid convoy of Zaid al-Azza began moving towards Gaza. Convoys being searched with the Israeli occupation forces in the Karm Abu Salem border crossing east-south of the Strip before entering Gaza. The convoy includes tons of trucks carrying food, medical aid, relief, as well as tons of fuel to meet the needs of the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. The Secretary General of the Arab League, Ahmed Abul-Gheid, condemned the Israeli occupation forces' storming of the UNRWA headquarters in the occupied East Jerusalem, considering the attack one amongst a series of the occupation's aggression on the international agency to undermine its role and eliminate the rights of the Palestinian refugees. Abul-Gheid stressed that the arguments displayed by the occupation to launch the illegal raid have no logical or legal basis, calling on the international community to intervene to put an end to the occupation's campaign against the agency that supports millions of Palestinian refugees. Meanwhile, a Hamas official said Tuesday that the Gaza ceasefire cannot proceed to its second phase as long as Israeli violations persist, calling on mediators to pressure Israel to respect the deal. Earlier, Hamas's movement confirmed its readiness for a long-term truce, adding that the Israeli occupation forces must adhere to the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. Hamas affirmed its readiness to hand over the administration of the Gaza Strip to an independent national committee of technocrats, pointing that it hasn't yet received a clear vision regarding the formation of the international force, its tasks, and its deployment locations in Gaza. The movement stressed that the issue of an international force disarming the resistance by force was absolutely unacceptable. The United Nations Humanitarian Aid Coordination Office is downsizing its appeal for annual funding in 2026 after support this year, mostly from Western governments, plunged to the lowest level in a decade. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said it was seeking $33 billion to help some 135 million people cope with fallout from wars, climate disasters, earthquakes, epidemics, as well as food shortages. The chief, Tom Fletcher, said that health systems broke apart, disease outbreaks spiked, and millions of people went without essential food, healthcare, and protection, adding that programs to protect women and girls were also slashed, whilst hundreds of aid organizations shut down. The Israeli occupation forces launched a series of strikes on southern Lebanon on Tuesday, with the Israeli army saying it hit a Hezbollah training center, amongst other targets. Despite a November 2024 ceasefire that was supposed to end more than a year of hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah, Israel has kept up strikes on Lebanon and maintains troops in 5 areas of the country's south. Lebanon's state-run national news agency reported a series of raids targeting a region about 40 kilometers north of the border with Israel. Israeli military said it had struck infrastructure belonging to the Hezbollah terrorist organization in several areas in southern Lebanon. Israel, meanwhile, says it continues attacks on Lebanon are to prevent the group from rearming. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, said that advances by paramilitary rapid support forces in Sudan could trigger another exodus across the country's borders. The RSF took over Darfur's city of El Fasher in late October in one of its biggest gains of the 2.5-year war with Sudan's army. This month, advances have continued eastward into the Kordofan region and have seized the country's biggest oil field. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Tuesday prepared to send the United States revised proposals to end the war started by Russia's February 2022 invasion as he met with Pope Leo XIV in Italy. Zelensky on Monday held talks with European leaders in London and Brussels as U.S. President Donald Trump keeps up pressure on Kiev for a settlement. Trump has accused Zelensky of not even reading his administration's proposals. An initial version was judged by Ukraine's allies to be overly favorable to Russia. And on the Russian-Ukrainian front, Russia's top general Valery Gerasimov said Tuesday that Russian forces were advancing along the entire front in Ukraine and had taken more than 30% of buildings in the eastern town of Mirnorad. Russia's defense ministry Tuesday said air defense systems intercepted and destroyed 121 Ukrainian drones overnight. Moreover, European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said Tuesday that any criticism regarding liberties in the European Union should be aimed in a different direction, namely Russia. Cambodia's powerful Senate President Hun Sen on Tuesday vowed that his country would carry out a fierce fight against Thailand as the second day of widespread renewed combat between the Southeast Asian neighbors drove tens of thousands of people to flee border areas. Fighting broke out following a skirmish on Sunday during which 2 Thai soldiers were injured, derailing a ceasefire that ended fighting over competing territorial claims in July. The 5 days of fighting then left dozens dead on both sides and forced the evacuation of over 100,000 civilians. Japanese authorities lifted tsunami warnings on Tuesday, hours after a powerful 7.5 magnitude earthquake shook northeastern regions, injuring at least 30 people and forcing about 90,000 residents to evacuate their homes. Japan is one of the world's most earthquake-prone countries, with a tremor occurring at least every 5 minutes. Located in the ring of fire of volcanoes and oceanic trenches partly encircling the Pacific basin, Japan accounts for about 20% of the world's earthquakes of magnitude 6 or greater. And moving to some business news, the Minister of Planning, Economic Development and International Cooperation, Dr. Raniel Mashal, signed a memorandum of understanding with the resident representative of the United Nations Development Programme in Egypt, Chitose Noguchi, on enhancing institutional capacities in various fields that support sustainable and comprehensive economic development. Minister Mashal said the signing of the agreement is part of the Planning Ministry's efforts to develop and support development cooperation between Egypt and regional and international institutions. During their meeting, both sides reviewed means to boost future cooperation and joint efforts to enhance economic development. The executive chairman for the General Authority for Investment and Free Zones, Hossein Habib, said that industrial infrastructure in Egypt is strong and ready to receive new investments. The remarks were made during GAFI executive chairman's meeting with the representatives of Chinese Fountain Set Limited Company to establish a new huge industrial complex for spinning and weaving with total investments worth $100 million. During the meeting, the Chinese company presented its future plan to expand activities in Egypt through establishing the new spinning and weaving factory, which will create nearly 1,500 job opportunities and will be a regional center for manufacturing textile and fabrics, as well as exporting them to African and European markets. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up the evening's English News Bulletin here on Channel 2. You're in the company of myself, Angie Meher. Thank you for watching.